ansiela that I could sort of explore what it meant to have fashion that respects culture, that celebrates it rather than taking from it. So for me, it
Mhm.
was really important to connect then with like-minded people, but at every level of the business. So actively looking for, because the talent is there. It's just sometimes not very easy for these talented sort of more minorities to find their way in the industry. So I'm
Mhm.
actively looking for a Latin stylist, a Latin photographer, not only at model level, obviously the casting is super important, but also at the core of the business, like who are making my clothing, with me. And
Mhm.
all of these people need to be understanding of the culture that we're celebrating. Otherwise, you kind of miss a link. And then that's where you tap into this dangerous space of cultural appropriation or
Yeah.
exploitation.
Mhm.
That's why I decided, I'm based in London, so I am also going to manufacture here. Like there is a massive community. We have the means to do it. It means that you're thinking about, the scaling would be probably a lot slower, and it's a slower journey. But I thought it's the most beautiful one because you're tapping into a different realm of and this psychology. So I just realized this maybe kind of 3 years into the brand, and I think we were hitting the pandemic, and
Mhm.
Fashion Revolution asked me to create something for them, and I thought, oh, what can I do? And then quickly you follow into, oh, how do you make your products and this and that. But then I thought, no, I want to tap into this culture. So I just gathered like a lot of my friends from the community and the diaspora, and I said, let's
Mhm.
create this sort of, people are mourning, people are dying. So how can we sort of use fashion as this cathartic sort of way of dealing with life? Because
Mhm.
I realized a lot of the inspiration sometimes was coming from a very deep level of how I was feeling or how I think, you know, this collection could make me feel better, could make me deal with like different traumas and stories of my life. But
Mhm.
obviously that's very personal to me, but then sort of connecting and allowing these stories to find other people, then I realized it wasn't that unique to me, that people were resonating with these experiences. And people also needed like a way to create and heal from trauma. And then fashion could be
Mhm.
this meeting point for, a filmmaker, a stylist, a fashion designer to all heal together and like, have this experience, like a shared experience to deal with these problems. So COVID was a main one, and everyone was going through it, the world was going through it. So that was a really beautiful experiment. And then we came up with this short, very experimental documentary for Fashion Revolution. And I think
Mhm.
that's when it clicked. And then I was like, I think it feels like I'm doing something right because I'm not fully focusing on product. Like, of course, a product is beautifully handcrafted and it needs to be luxury, of course. But we're also tapping into this sort of cultural level and the psychology of how fashion could also be this, healing practice, or could also be this collective practice. and
Mhm.
and that was beautiful. So I don't think I could go back to not thinking about it. So like at every level I'm thinking about it. Obviously with COVID, fashion was very digital. We were making sort of short films, short fashion films. And then in last September, we did our first live fashion show. You were there, Shakayla, as well. So that was an
Yeah.
exciting
Brilliant.
thing because I thought, how can I translate this sort of like kind of screen visually that we've done very comfortably and fashion films translated into real life experience? And I just wanted people to feel something at every level. And that's always been the question, I think, is how everything starts. And it all connects at the end of the day, because I think sustainability is very linked to culture and people. Like we often
Mhm.
forget that that is at the forefront of how to make a better world and a friendlier way of dealing with the problems that we face. So, but it became massively important. I don't think that if we had not gone through COVID, if I had not had the experiences I'd had working for different companies, I don't think I'd be sort of paying so much attention to the psychology of fashion. So it's wonderful. When I learned about your work, Shakila, I was like, oh my God, this is it's wonderful to see it so beautifully like written and in a simple way to understand. But I think
Mhm.
intuitively it was always there, and it's nice to explore it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it was always there. Like the amount of thought and like effort and energy that you put into your designs and the way that you think about things, that is psychology. And I think it's so beautiful to see. And like you mentioned, I was so grateful to come to your show because it was so like it was amazing. It was so impactful. It's so inclusive, models from all walks of life. Like, and then you had the singer that came on, and then she was just such a beautiful reflection of
Amazing.
culture. And it just seemed like such a massive feat. And I know when you're pushing, like I felt like with when I was creating the book, I'm sure mentor, and you felt that when you was creating positive retail and your coaching business, you push and you push and you push, and sometimes your mental health can really like take a step back. So I want to stick with you, Jennifer, and just ask you, like, how did you take care of your mental health and yourself whilst you were creating this fashion show?
I mean, that was also been a journey. Like, it's been so tough. Like you said, it's like your business is your baby. And
Yeah.
especially when you come like from nothing, like no one wants to help you. So you're like hustling, and it takes a
Mhm.
toll. So I think, especially 2 years ago, I noticed that in my health. I was like, wow, I'm like chain smoking. I'm not feeling strong. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I'm in my early 30s. This is not okay. So I kind
Yeah.
of understood physically that something needed to change, because also like my body wasn't coping. So in my mind, I was
Mhm.
also not coping. So I
Mhm.
couldn't, like, I think I understood now more the relationship with like healthy body, healthy mind.
Yeah.
So like 2 years ago, by chance, I got like a spot in the London Marathon, running for this charity that I was making PPEs during the COVID. And then they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, we have a running team. Do you want to run?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it." It was such a lovely charity and doing so many nice things for the NHS that I thought that's amazing. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna run a marathon. So I trained, and you have to train because otherwise you don't finish, you get injured.
Yeah.
So it was the discipline as well of having to train because you have to. So
Mhm.
sometimes when you have your own business, it's like the work never stops. You're working 7 days a week, like
Mhm.
many hours, and it's also not healthy. Like in any work environment, that would not be allowed, right? But because it's
Yeah.
your business, you sort of don't have these boundaries. And I find out that with running, like I put myself these boundaries of like, no, I need to run, I'm not going to miss my session. So I had to get out of my studio and go out and running, and I, that sort of going out and get fresh air. And I train over the summer, so it was beautiful. And I understood, I mean, it was a journey of like 6 months, I would say, that I was training like
Mhm.
properly. And I noticed that mentally, like my
Yeah.
health also improved. I was smoking less. Now I quit smoking. I was drinking less because you had to train
Yay.
so much. So I
Mhm.
really understood the relationship, and I celebrate it now. So after I finished that, my first London marathon, I was just so proud to have finished it. And then the next day I was like flying to New York for work, crazy, but it was all, anyway, beautiful. And then I wanted to do it again. I was like, I'm going to sign up for another marathon because I was so scared to lose the discipline of running.
Yeah.
And I could see the benefits also mentally. I was more productive. So my energy levels were better, I was more
Yeah.
efficient. And I
Yeah.
always thought you have to work like nonstop, but actually you have to be respectful of those boundaries and take breaks.
Mm.
Think of your physical health, and then you will see your efficiency improving. So it was like mind blowing because it's something that took like 6 months to a year to understand and see the results. So towards Fashion
Yeah.
Week, I was feeling so energized. I mean, it's very, very stressful. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to romanticize it. It was
Yeah.
really, really tough, but sort of understanding that you need like a strong body because your dealing is very physical. Like I'm there with you. I mean, we're such a small team, so I'm there unloading boxes. I'm there,
Yeah.
throwing the last minute hem. So I'm there at every level, like putting the set together, doing the model, the casting. I mean, I'm there in every step. So I need that energy. I need a healthy mind, a healthy body. But it was a
Yeah.
funny one. Like I think at a point you understand that you cannot go on like that. It's like you're young, so you
Mm.
should not be feeling that weak and things like that. So yeah, it was a massive sort of change in of lifestyle and discipline as well.
That's so brilliant. I mean, I just feel like I can hear so much of myself in you. I mean, I'm not running no marathons, but I was like that too when I started when I became self-employed. I just started smoking. I was smoking, smoking, smoking so bad, and then I started to realize like I am breaking down. Like, why am I waking up and my chest feels like an 80-year-old grandma? Like, why am I like hobbling
Mm.
around? Like, why am I not sleeping? And then you realize like, yeah, you can't just work. You'll just work yourself into the ground. Like, you literally have to
Yes.
make that balance. And like you said, you have to do things that are outside of work and just make a fun for you. And for me, that was dancing. I
Mhm.
started to go to dance classes last year. So
Amazing.
that was just something that just made me feel like myself, like not Shakayla, the fashion psychologist, like, do you know what I mean? Like not Jennifer, the designer, just
Yes.
like you separate. And that's like something good for your mental health. And